A Call to the Ancestors is an exhibition that is focused primarily on Lincoln Memorial Park Cemetery, which is the largest and was called the most beautiful Black historic cemetery in Miami. I think in the South in terms of size, but I could be mistaken. It's also a cemetery where some of the most kind of famous, if you will, and most well-known um, um, Black residents of Miami are buried, and there's a huge Bahamian population that resides there. The first Black millionaire, so-called Black millionaire, so-called first Black millionaire, Dorsey is buried there. So all kinds, not, I mean, all kinds. There's a whole section of the cemetery that's for Black veterans and so forth. And so Carl, who works for the Miami Herald, had already done a story and an exhibition on the cemetery years prior at the Coral Gables Museum. But the idea was to update that story because since that story came out, a gentleman had bought the cemetery, which over time had really been very, very neglected. And so Jesse Wooden had recently bought the cemetery. And so the idea was to engage with the new owner, to update the photographs and include some of the old ones as well, but not stop there as a, because the history of the cemetery, like many Black cemeteries, is very violent. Essentially, when white cemeteries were full up, people would dig up Black bodies and put them in this particular cemetery. So, yeah, anyway, it's a very violent story. So Carl, as the curator of that show, didn't want to end the story there and decided that what we should do is highlight the culture of the folks buried there. So, and as a kind of homage to the ancestors, if you will. So we have the photographs of the cemetery itself, but we also commissioned, I think, 8 or more artists and also writers to write about and to create pieces. Like we have one from a Haitian, an African American, Indigenous, so forth and so on. And they were asked to create pieces that celebrate how they're separate, how their cultures celebrate the transition to the afterlife, if you will. So, and as part of that, we had a phone booth, a parlor, rather, not a phone booth, a parlor, because we wanted to look like a home, and in that parlor, which, if you remember, there was a phone. Do you remember this? There was a phone booth there, and we had like a parlor chair and like pictures and books, so it looked like you were at home, and a curtain, and so you could go behind the curtain and leave a message for one of your ancestors. And we have all of those actually, which we will eventually figure out how to activate and use. So that was it, and it was the impulse for it to be part of the larger project about climate was that it was basically terribly neglected for many years, largely because of issues to do with gentrification. It was like the weeds had overgrown, and so forth and so on. That was a long explanation.
So, to me, the coolest thing about the exhibition was the phone.
Yeah, I
And
love
and
that.
I left a message to probably my father
Yeah.
on the phone, and I'm sure a lot of people did. I'm sure you got people crying on the phone.
Oh, everybody. Yeah. My daughter, my mother, and I all together left a message to my grandmother, and we were all crying. So yeah, it was a lot of emotions.
I would love to help you when you say activate that.
Sure.
Obviously you got to get permission of the people who, do people sign something when they,
They didn't, but we had something on the wall saying that it would be
like a
used.
disclaimer or something
Yeah.
like that? Yeah.
Hmm.
I just thought of a way to activate it using the technique I use for my show at the Jewish Museum, which is you could, to the extent possible, have images of the people they're talking to. I mean, obviously
Oh,
not
wow.
thousands of people, but maybe get some of the most interesting calls
Right.
and have images of the people that they're talking to. And
Hmm.
then in the wall text, you have a QR code that links to the audio recording. So
Yeah,
somebody could look at the image and then they hear, rather than having a device at every single thing, you just do it on your phone.
yeah. Well, one of the things I really would like to do with that project, and this will give you more of a textured idea of what we do at the Public Humanities Lab, is the gentleman, Jesse Wooden, when he bought the cemetery, unbeknownst to him, he inherited the archive. And so there are about like 45 boxes in his garage, unfortunately, of letters, I mean, everything you could possibly imagine, records of who's buried, of how much they paid for the burial plots, of ceremonies, there are images, there are clippings from newspapers. I mean, it's a tremendous archive of Miami's history. And so my great wish is to be able to get some grant funds and make that a big project to digitize that archive and then activate it, continue to activate. So let's see, and we would use the voices as part of that for sure.